Is sampling stealing? Really, does it infringe on copyright, or should it at least be considered copyright infringement or plagiarism? I think it's a difficult question to answer, but perhaps if looking at the framework provided by the Copyright Office, the answer should be a clear and resounding yes. At least when looking at songs that more or less use the entire track of another artist, even if it's just the instrumentals. Because it's pretty obvious in those cases. But when a piece of a song, say part of a drum track or a piece of the vocals are being used, that's when it becomes a bit more murky. I would argue from the standpoint that if more or less an entire song is being used, then that is plagiarism. If it's just a part, I'm not really sure how to answer it. But I do think in that case, it becomes an entirely different discussion, because that is an entirely different issue. Yes, it's in the same vein, but I think there's too many technicalities in my mind for someone to make a clear-cut argument going one way or the other. It's also difficult in my mind because off the top of my head, I don't know if any of these songs are part of any lawsuits, and therefore there might not be enough evidence to suggest whether or not there is in fact plagiarism. And that's another problem. At this stage in my investigation, if you will, into this particular topic, it seems as though lawsuits involving music copyright are so uncommon that one might be led to believe that plagiarism, at least when it comes to music, is a non-existent issue. Unless they are so common that they've lost all validity and meaning and are therefore deemed unnewsworthy. That, and also because it seems that plagiarism is so common in music that artists might be turning a blind eye. This idea that everybody steals from everybody. The offended party may have even stolen from someone knowingly or unknowingly in their song. So a cycle becomes created. When it comes to the practice itself, I get a little frustrated with sampling. First of all, because at the end of the day, I couldn't really care less what an artist does. As long as they're being creative and using the entire song or part of it in a new and clever way, does it really matter? Again, this idea that everybody steals from everybody. But I think that's why I get frustrated, because on the one hand, I find it to be lazy. I mean, how hard can it really be to create a beat? There must be countless songs by rap artists that are original, right? I mean, did they really feel a need to more or less steal from somebody else? On the other hand, if they take part of something and create something new with it in a way that's fresh and creative, then why shouldn't they? Thus, why the waters become so muddy. Most of music is truly whittled down to one's opinion at the end of the day. Just as a cycle is created because plagiarism may in fact be so common, another one begins when artists try to prevent it. In a way, they're limiting creativity, even if that so-called creativity is building on something that already exists. Imagine how much music would be created if artists, or the law, held other artists back, or in some cases if they held themselves back because their songs sounded like or used part of another. If everyone steals from everyone, then what is the meaning of pointing out infractions when, in turn, everyone is guilty? Then we would have created a world in which nothing gets made. Would we really want to live in a world in which Mozart could say to the Beatles, "Hey, I already used these notes, you have no right to use them in your songs"? So yes, sampling may just as well be stealing, but at the same time, it really isn't. All it boils down to is, if it bothers you that much, just skip to the next track.